Do you guys remember this? I painted this a while ago with good intentions to use it as the backdrop for a crochet project, but then I went and buggered up my shoulder and I wasn't able to crochet at all for quite a while. And now that I can actually crochet again, if in a reduced capacity, I reckon it's about time we start on this thing. The idea is to use this as the backdrop of a balcony scene. So we'll have the base here, perhaps with some pillars and some artwork. Then I want to add some foliage. So I'm thinking at this stage, a tree, definitely some like creeping vines going up the balcony. And then I want to add a bit more detail to the background. There's probably going to be a lot more to it than that, but I want to start with the basics first, and then I'm going to work on the finer details later. First thing I want to start with is the balcony. I plan to make that out of grey, and I want to give it a brickwork or stonework feel. Today's the day. I have grabbed a selection of yarn, and with it I am going to figure out my brickwork pattern for this section down here. Do you have this silver crap that I found in my ribbon box the other day, which could add an interesting bit of texture, but I don't know if I want to use that or not, but we'll keep that there anyway, just in case. The first idea I had involved just crocheting with sort of all of these threads held together. And I do want this piece to be mostly grey, so I'm even thinking once I've done my chain, so what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do 8, so this is just a sample piece. I don't want it too big, so then I can work my double crochet. But what I can do to maintain the grey, I will like drop the cream and the brown, so I can do my next stitch in just the greys. And then in my next one, I will perhaps pick up the cream. Then in the next one, I might pick up the brown. Then I might go back to just the greys, maybe the cream as well. I quite like how the cream and the 2 greys look together. 2, 3, turn. And if I worked in the back loop only for the entire thing, that might give me the sort of the facade of bricks. We'll have to do something to replicate the mortar in between, sort of going vertically, but for the horizontal, the back loop, or the front loop I should say, that will be left visible, that might work. There's my test piece done. It's not giving me like brickwork. I think we can do a little bit better than that. There's something that I have figured out is I do like the way the 2 greys and the cream work together. I'm not as big a fan of the brown, so I might drop that from the lineup and proceed with just these 3. Let me clean up this mess and then we'll come back and we'll try experiment number 2. For my second attempt, I'm going to use the lighter 2, so in this case the cream and the light grey as the bricks themselves, but I think I'll try and use the darker grey as like the mortar in between those. And I might do this in multiples of, let's try 5, because I'll have the bricks 4 double crochet wide, and then the mortar can just be 1 double crochet. So if I drop the dark grey and work with these 2, so I want to make sure I'm working over that. 1. Finish off in the dark grey. And just make it the same sort of weight. I could use both ends of the dark grey, but for the experiment we'll just do the 1. Then I'm going to swap back. I think between each row of double crochet, I might do 1 row of just single crochet, but in the darker grey here. So if we chain 1, turn our work, and carry these 2 across. So 1. And for this next row, I'm going to do 1 brick that is 4 double crochet across sort of the middle here. But I'm going to split the stitches of the second brick up between each end. I'll chain 3. I'll go 2. Well, this first one I can split up 2 and 2. You don't really have many options when your brick is only 4 double crochet wide. I think I'm going to do 1 more row after the single crochet row, and I'm going to substitute the silver for the cream. I just want to see if pairing that with the grey will give it a more sort of fantastical, foresty, I don't know, magical vibe. I don't know, I still kind of like the cream. It just gives it a bit more detail, I think. So just picture that. Put that down. Picture that, but filling up this entire section, but on top of the styrofoam, so it'll give it a bit more dimension. There's a joke in here somewhere about talking to a brick wall, but I don't know what it is. I really like how this has turned out. One minor, it's not quite a complaint, but something I might like to change if I recreated this pattern is I'd like to see what difference there is between using single crochet, which is what I've done here, and slip stitches for my in-between rows. I don't think the single crochet looks bad at all. It'd just be interesting to see what sort of difference the using slip stitches instead creates. But too late now, because there's no way I'm frogging all of this just to find that out. But now that it's done, so if I pop this up here, compare it to that, it is a little bit shorter than my styrofoam. But a couple of things. I will be adding the styrofoam ledge next. Stay there, please. Just stay. I will be adding the styrofoam ledge next, so that's going to stick out over this bit. It's going to form like a lip, and I'm going to crochet around that as well. If that doesn't cover the tiny gap that's left, I can always shave a little bit off the top here. That's not going to make a huge difference to the overall project. The next thing I need to determine is how far out I want that lip to sit, because I want it to sit out far enough that it does add dimension to the piece, but I don't want it to stick out so far that it looks a bit ridiculous, but also becomes a breaking hazard, because I mean, this is just crappy styrofoam stuff. If I accidentally knock it, it is going to break. There will be crochet around it, which I hope will keep it together in the event that does happen, but still, styrofoam, not exactly the strongest material, is it? I want to try and minimize the possibility of it getting broken. So I am thinking, if I get my handy tape measure out, if I have it stick out about, let's try 5 centimeters. So 5 centimeters. So it'll be that far over the edge here. And then we'd need an additional, how wide is that? Almost 3. So if I made this 8 centimeters, I think that would look all right. this is what we've got so far. This is my base. There, that's the brickwork. And then this is the piece I've just finished crocheting, which is sort of the lip of the brickwork. So that will sit up under there. But having finished this, I've actually changed my mind about what I want to crochet next. Originally, I was going to crochet what would be the columns of my balcony, and then after that I would do the top section, finish that off. But after giving it a bit of thought, I reckon I should go with the background details first, because depending on how large and potentially how bulky I make them, I may need additional room either up the top or on the sides. And that way I can sort of arrange those remaining balcony pieces to suit those background pieces. I gotta do this quick because I am not convinced that that's going to stay up there for very long. Progress update. I have crocheted some of my detail pieces. We've got the tree going on, which you can only see a little bit of, but I can give you a better view in a second. And I've also got some pieces on which I'm going to build the shrubbery. So that's going to go roughly there somewhere. These pieces by themselves are kind of flat and uninteresting. So my next step in this entire process is going to be to add some shadow and highlight. To break this down, right, I have my balcony base. I'm going to need to make the arches for the top portion of the balcony. I will also be, these are going to fall, I'm going to move these. I will also be adding columns to the side, and to facilitate that, I have been collecting cardboard dunning rolls, and those are the only balcony pieces I add. But then I also need to include the details. So I've crocheted the two large pieces of that, the tree trunk and the bushes, but I'm going to add leaves to this. I'm probably going to add some sort of ivy or other vine-like plant around the balcony itself. And then there'll just be like minor details, whether I want to add something in the sky, something on the sea, perhaps I'll add in some flowers, things like that. But I hope you can understand why I'm just a little bit hesitant at this point, because this isn't necessarily a difficult project. There's just a lot of moving parts. Maybe moving parts isn't the right word because I don't want them to move. That's exactly the opposite of what I want them to do. But there's a lot of individual pieces that need to come together to create this. And if I put them on in the wrong order, it's just not going to work. I'm at a bit of a crossroads at the moment. I have the bulk of my large pieces. So I've got like all this stuff here. I do need to make a couple more in the form of the columns. But for the most part, all the large pieces are done. It's just really, aside from the columns, the decorative crochet pieces that I will need to make. And the reason I say I'm at a crossroads is I don't know if I should continue on and make those, or if I should start the process of assembling this thing. Because I'm going to have to get this done in the right order. So for the tree, for example, I will need to have that pressed flat against the canvas. So that will really need to go on first, because then the brickwork and the ledge piece is going to cover that. So that's the question I'm trying to answer at the moment. Do I continue crocheting pieces that I will need, or do I start assembly? Maybe assembly, because in addition to worrying about the order in which the pieces are placed, I also have to take into consideration that if they stay separated, just floating around this room as they have been doing for months, I'm going to end up either losing or breaking some of them. One of my styrofoam pieces already has a crack in it, so I would like to avoid future damage if I possibly can. Slight change of plans. Instead of the toilet rolls taped together, I'm going to cut this. Whoops, don't break it. Despite how careful I was when I taped these things together, they are still a little bit skewed, and I don't really want slanted columns. So I figure if I cut this, that will keep the piece nice and straight. I think I've reached the point where I can comfortably say I'm ready to put the balcony together. So that means you and you lot and my grey tubes. We're making progress. We're getting there. I've just got a few more detail pieces that I would like to crochet. I did make myself some ivy, and that was going to wrap around the columns here, but I honestly think it's just too big. Like, check this out. I think the leaves are too large, and look, none of the other pieces are proportionate or to scale. So like it doesn't matter too much, but I just look at that and I don't really like it. So I think I'll use these for some other purpose, and I'm going to make myself some smaller ivy, some type of vine to go around the poles. I don't know if I like that. It almost seems too uniform or too symmetrical. I mean, for the rest, like these plants here, it looks a bit wild and overgrown. But that's just too neat. Yeah, I don't like that. Which is a shame, because I really wanted some sort of flora creeping up the columns there. Maybe I can try putting it in a different spot. So I think this project asks the question, what is scale, perspective, any of those things, and then answers, I don't know. But look, despite having a few flaws, including that of the perspective scale issue, I really like this. It's fairly close to my original vision, if not as detailed as I would have liked. For example, I did plan to have like a little crochet dolphin maybe in the sea, maybe a dragon up the top here. But the issue I was running into when I attempted to do that was I just don't have a thin enough weight yarn. If I used my regular 8-ply, even with I think I tried a 2.5mm hook, the pieces I was making, they were just too large. And if I scaled down like for example, the dragon that I wanted, I just couldn't achieve the level of detail that I think I needed for that. It just would have looked like a black blob on the canvas, and I didn't really want that. So I've omitted details like that for now. And the same thing goes for the vines that I wanted around the poles. I first tried using these ivy leaves that I made. They were too large. I then proceeded to make this, which is basically just picot stitches crocheted down a chain. And as you guys saw probably a few minutes ago in this video, I just didn't like how that looked. It was way too... I don't know exactly the right word I want here. I think I said in the video it was like too symmetrical, too uniform. Yes, that's kind of the case. I honestly, after trying to like investigate why I didn't like that very much, I really couldn't come up with an answer better than that. So I just didn't like the way it looked. That's as simple as that. I didn't really like the way it looked. So I've left those off for now as well. But I think this is a project that when I have the appropriate yarn, for example, thinner weight yarns, if I ever get those, I will slowly add more detail to it. I was even trying to figure out how I could include some sort of light source, whether that was lanterns or candle, not real candles obviously, but just something to that effect. But none of those pieces are things that I am sort of equipped to make at the moment. So yeah, this is definitely one that I'm going to revisit. Look, I thoroughly enjoyed working on this project. Like my butterfly cardigan that came out probably a couple of weeks ago as of filming this video, this project has taken me so very long. I first began it sort of around the same time that I began that butterfly cardigan. It was before I really hurt my shoulder, so I had to take a break because of that. And then sort of life gets in the way. My collaboration with Complicated Knots then took up a lot of my time, so this got relegated to the back burner for a while, but it is now finished. I am incredibly happy with the result. And another aspect of this project that I really enjoyed was the sort of the spontaneity of it. Look, I'll level with you guys. Outside of crochet, I am very much a list making, planner, scheduler. I need like 3 to 5 business days advance notice of if I need to do anything. I do not like being unprepared or surprised, so I'm always trying to plan accordingly, even when that can be to my detriment, over planning. But when it comes to crocheting, I try and give myself a bit of a break. I mean, obviously there needs to be some sort of planning and preparation involved. You need to know how much yarn you'll need, that sort of thing. You can't go in completely blind. But for the most part, I give myself a break with crochet and I just like to wing it. And I found I did that with this project in particular more than usual. And I think due in part to that freedom that I allowed myself, just sort of making things up as I went, I enjoyed the process of making this project like so much more than other projects I've worked on recently. Not that I haven't liked those, I absolutely have. I'm not forcing myself to make projects I don't want to make. I do enjoy making these other ones too. It makes me want to do more projects like this where I just have like a vague picture, a general concept that I'm aiming for, but I don't do much planning beyond that. I don't do any sketches beforehand. I don't use reference materials. I just make it up as I go. I acknowledge that that could definitely be a disaster too, but risk reward, you gotta weigh those things up. And I think fortunately in this case, I landed more on the reward side of that spectrum. So what more can I add? I mean, obviously these didn't work out as I planned, so I just sort of stuck them on the back here. They're not even glued down yet. I've just got a pin in them in case I want to change their location later, but for now I'm just going to have them as hanging lines there. One thing that could have worked out better if I did do any of the planning or preparation that I was talking about before is the positioning of the tree. I do like how the trunk itself looked, like the detail on it, but it did end up hidden behind the pole. I did consider moving that pole inwards a bit, but like that frankly just looked ridiculous. So the trade-off was that I had to cover the trunk of the tree. If I had planned that a little bit better, maybe I could have had the tree, you know, in towards the middle of the canvas a little bit. Outside of that, there's just a few things I would have liked to add, which I've already covered, like the creatures in the background, possibly some light sources, maybe even some more details to the front here, but I am a bit concerned about like overcrowding it. So in conclusion, I'm happy with my crochet painting mixed project thing. I have no idea where I'm going to keep this. I'm getting quite a collection of canvas pieces in my background here, and if I keep this up, I'm not going to have room for any of them, so we'll have to find a spot for that. I would like to have it in my background somewhere. I just don't know if that's going to be feasible. But yeah, I think that's all I have left to say, at least in relation to the canvas. I do need to do... And today's featured creator on the hookup is Karli, and she says, I love to create anything from drawing to 3D printing. My favorite medium, of course, is crochet. I've only recently started developing my own patterns, and I love to make super cute small projects like bouquets, keychains, and earrings. They all do sound super cute. And earrings are one of those things I would like to make them for myself, but I just know I wouldn't get any use out of them, so I think it'd be a bit of a waste unless I knew someone who would wear them, which in real life, I don't. What a terrible problem to have. But anyway, if you would like to check out all of Karli's super cute projects, her links will be down in the description, and so we'll link to the hookup form if you would like to apply for yourself. And that's all I have for you guys today. I'm going to spend probably the next hour trying to figure out how to fit this thing into my background, but I won't bore you with all of that, so I'll just say thank you for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, like the video if you enjoyed it, share it if you think it's worth sharing, and I will see you in the next one.